The funny thing is, I started cutting hair by accident. Well, I was inspired because my uncle actually owned two barbershops in Germantown. I used to get my free haircuts since I was like 7 all the way up till I was about like 15. So I was just kind of always around the barber environment. Me actually cutting hair came when I was in 8th grade, and a good friend of mine at the time, his name was Bryant, rest in peace. We was going to a party, 8th grade kids going to this party, and he was like, my sister has a pair of clippers. Can you shape me up? Since you already know how to draw. I was always drawing since a kid. So he was like, man, can you shape me up? You know how to draw. And I'm like, man, I don't want to mess you up. It was that challenge right there that kind of like first put the clippers in my hand. I started cutting hair in 8th grade. 9th grade, I started getting nice. And literally in 9th grade, I was starting to cut, some of the seniors and juniors and seniors that was on like the football team. I went to Penwood High School at the time, so I was cutting seniors and juniors on the football team at Penwood High. So that was like 8th, 9th grade, cutting hair. Yeah. During my barber career, I was always an artist. I was always an artist, first and foremost. It's very funny. It's very funny, this relationship with barbering and art in my life. In 12th grade, we had to do a senior project. The senior project consisted of community service volunteer hours into a profession that you could see yourself doing after high school. I chose barbering, not because I wanted to be a barber, but because going into my earlier, childhood stories, 8th and 9th grade, I was already cutting hair, in my neighborhood. And so when the senior project came, it was just, I'm gonna do it because it was easy. Not because I wanted to be a barber, just because it was easy. All right, I gotta dedicate, 50 hours to this. So I chilled in a barber shop. Funny thing is, Marcus, I am Mark. He was my mentor at the time. He was cutting in Darby at what is it? Sharp Skills. I think that's the name of the shop. But so that project kind of like catapulted me into like really taking barbering serious. Graduated high school, worked at Strawbridge's in the China department, suited up and everything, $6, selling fine china to old women. It was crazy. And I remember getting paid $6 an hour, getting dressed up, having to cater to these people that didn't look like me, that came in the store already thinking that I didn't know what I was talking about, but little did they know I sold the shit out of that stuff. And I was one of the best sellers there. At the time, I was coming to and from work, and it was a barbershop in my neighborhood, and they had a help wanted sign. And I was cutting myself at the time, and I walked in there, and I went in there with the intended purpose of sitting in a chair just so I could get comfortable with them knowing me and me knowing them. And then I asked, I see a help wanted sign. What's up? They said, do you have a license? I said, no, but I got clientele. You know what I mean? And from there, I quit my job at Strawbridge's and never looked back. Was cutting hair for about 10 years. 10 years, of course, I finally got licensed. But throughout that 10 years, I've also put myself through Art Institute of Philadelphia, studying media arts and animation, paying for that out of my barber money. Unfortunately, those bills got a little too high, so I had to, still pursue my art in other ways. It just wasn't, collegiately. But I couldn't let that art side die. So the art community started seeing a big boom in creativity in the barber scene. And me and my cousin Kenny Duncan at the time, we were inspired by these portraits that were starting to happen by a few barbers that we knew that were doing them, and me and Kenny was just like, we gotta take it to the next level. So we started having challenges, we started having bets, and whoever lost the bet would have to get a face portrait put in the back of their head. That's how we started practicing. We started losing bets and we were practicing. So it went from these portrait challenges in the shop, getting confident, knowing certain procedures, certain tricks and things like that I did with the clippers on people's hair that allowed me to step out and say, you know what, I'm about to start doing competitions. So I started, applying it to join in competitions, doing portraits. The first time I won, it's crazy. The first time I won was at the Barber Brothers hair show in Atlanta. Super big, you know what I mean? It was the first time I ever seen like that many of us, you know what I mean? Black folk, black excellence all in one building. It was like, damn, yo, they doing it big, yo, like big. So I'm nervous now. And I signed up for 2 competitions. One was the Andis competition, and I lost. It's not because my haircut wasn't good. It was just a lot of things I saw during the course of that Barber Brother weekend that I instantly like picked up and learned, like presentation. You know what I mean? Your wardrobe, everything was bigger than just a haircut. So on day 1, I lost. Day 2, I had my second competition. So I re-strategized and I actually won. I won in front of, a couple thousand people at Bronner's. And I was just like, wow, I want to be a part of this industry in a bigger way. So yeah, that's been like the ongoing, relationship between my artwork and barbering is me using barbering to be a platform for me to express my creativity and my artwork, and I've done that very successfully, and now I'm full-time artist, and it's funny because I'm now using certain practices that I learned while barbering into my artwork, just as far as how to conduct business, customer service skills, presentation, things like that. So those 2 careers definitely one hand wash the other. Yeah. So a lot of people, I've developed a lot of good relationships with, people in the industry, outside of the industry, and they knew me for cutting hair. And then they kind of said, whoa, what happened? What happened? He stopped cutting hair. He started doing art. It got to a point where, and I had these conversations with a lot of my coworkers at the time. I started analyzing what I wanted my future to look like, and I loved cutting hair. I loved cutting hair. I never desired to own a shop though. I never desired to own a shop, but I loved cutting hair. I couldn't see myself retiring the way I wanted to retire as a barber. Like, I knew that barbering was a young man's game. As you get older, your clients get older, and you can't be the 70-year-old dude still giving sharp-ass cuts to these young 20-year-olds. So I looked at it the longevity way. At the time, I was putting a lot of hours into the shop. My family life was falling apart a little bit. And so I had to make a decision of, what's more important to me at the time. My barber career or my family. And because I already had that, because I already had those thoughts of what my future looked like past a certain age and what I did want it to look like, it was kind of like, okay, I'm 30, I'm young enough to like start a new path and still really be like as successful as I envision myself. So for me to step out on faith and kind of pursue the art, just all in. It was hard. It was definitely hard. But I think that people that have been following my art career, following my barber career, people that are really like, they see my heart and see my passion. They stuck by. They're still supporters. They still come out to my shows. They still buy artwork, and honestly, I'm glad that I can make this transition the way I have, because I see that I'm an inspiration to a lot of people. Barbers, a lot of barbers are starting to open their eyes and collect artwork now, or do artwork now, express themselves in other creative ways. So I draw my balance. I draw my balance from my family and my wife particularly. I'm not even gonna lie. It's a lot of people. It's funny. It's funny because a lot of people kind of look at me and say "Oh man, Chuck, you're this guy, you're that guy, and you great artist and everything." I don't see myself that way. You know what I mean? I don't see myself that way. I see Chuck. I see Chuck doing a lot of great things in the barber career, and then I see Chuck that has just newly entered this art world. And a lot of people put all that together. Me, I try not to, because I'm very much still new to this art game. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still finding my art voice. That's why I do a lot of things in collections, because when you look at some other professional artists, like let's say Pablo Picasso, for instance. Pablo Picasso had over 11 different styles throughout his course of his career. I left Barber and jumped straight into art. I've only been art business for 3 years. So I didn't have, that 10 years of me cutting hair to discover what my art voice was. So a lot of people sit there and ask me for advice and things of that nature. And I'm like, I can't really give you advice. I can tell you my story, but I can't really give you advice because I'm not your typical artist. I'm married with a wife that has a good job at the Philadelphia School District. At times when it's low for me, she can hold on to maintaining the house. Then when my months come in and it's really good, then we moving. But I can't really give advice to someone else who might be single, got their own bills to take care of, solely depending on their artwork. Their struggles are completely different from mine. So for me, I know that my balance, and I try not to take this for granted at all, is that I got a wife. I got she's my partner in this. We make it work. She believes in me. She believes in me still being the leader of the household, and with this artist entrepreneur life. Just like I try to tell every artist, the struggling artist kind of stigma is don't try to take that to heart. Look at yourself as an entrepreneur. And if you look at the numbers, a lot of entrepreneurs fail within their first 5 years. Everybody's struggling. Everybody's starving. So I try not to hold on to, I'm a struggling artist. No, I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. There will be hard times. You know what I mean? Me having my wife to counterbalance, those hard times, those valleys, that's where my balance comes from, knowing that, okay, if that's it. It does feel crazy sometimes when people ask me, what do I do for a living? And I reply I'm an artist. It's so many artists out here that off of first reaction, people are like, oh, okay. And you can tell their face is yeah, you don't know. So for me, and it's so funny. I'm gonna give you a real quick example. I was out in Montgomery County. For anybody that's watching this, and if you don't know what Montgomery County is, that's Ardmore. That's nice side. That's where I go take my kids to go play in the park and stuff like that. Get that diversity in, right? So me and this, I want to say she was from the Middle East. Not really sure. We was talking, small talk. And she asked me what I did for a living, so I told her I was an artist. But I knew talking to this probably well-off woman, you know what I mean, that I had to show what I did. So I already had my website already uploaded, boom, showed it to her. And then to show somebody what you do is that's where it pays off at. Because to tell somebody If you was to run into Mark Cuban, and he just tell you, oh yeah, I'm a businessman, and you don't know who Mark Cuban is, you wouldn't know. Oh snap, you're the executive producer of Shark Tank. You're the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. You know what I mean? Fortune 500 company, dude. So it's like sometimes you do have to show people your value, like your worth, and instantly make people fans. You know what I mean? Within that first first impression. So. My first art show was at the Urban Art Gallery on 52nd Street in Irving in West Philadelphia. The owner, Carl Franz Morris, really good friend of mine to this day. He's like family. At the time when I was barbering on 52nd Street at Main Attraction Unisex Salon, that's when I really started to break away from doing the barber artwork, because backtrack a little bit, when I started winning competitions at these barber shows, I started seeing the vending booths, and I started seeing a lot of people sell t-shirts, sell clippers, sell combs, or sell like some other product, you know what I mean? And it was consistent. It was almost like a step and repeat, you know what I mean, throughout the whole show. And I said, I'm very much an artist, but I'm also like business wise too. So I'm walking around these shows and I'm winning, and I'm looking like, well, I wanna make some money, I was selling shirts for a little bit, but I was like, everybody's selling shirts. I gotta sell something different. And I said, nobody in here is selling any artwork. It's all these barbers, hair salon owners, barbershop owners in here, and there is no booth in here that people can buy some artwork for their brick and mortar store. So I started dedicating at least like 3 or 4 years while barbering, just doing barber artwork. And now I've sold thousands of pieces to people in all over the world. My website tracks and lets me know like where artwork is going. I've sent things to Africa, to Europe, to South America, Canada. Yeah. So once I got a taste of how my art could move, I started saying, okay, let me find my art voice outside of the barber artwork, because I love barbering, and I saw that was a niche that I could instantly go in there and fill. But I said, what's my artwork going to do for the community that I'm in? And so my first art show that I put together, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was 2012, like right after my daughter was born. At the Urban Art Gallery. It was very all over the place, because I was just like, oh, I want to paint this, I want to paint that, I want to paint that. I look back at it now and just say like, oh, this stuff is trash. But the amount of love that I got was just like, it's something. There's something fulfilling that money can't buy, when it's like, I created this. This is something that I had. This is a vision that I had, and I made it tangible. I made it, come to life. And people, it touches people. You know what I mean? It speaks to people. It motivates people. It inspires people. And for me, that feeling is worth more than any amount of money. And ever since that show, that's kind of what's been like feeding my passion. Just that it's just that knowledge, knowing that people really feel moved by whatever it is that once lived up here is now created and put it out in the world. So
I see that you did a couple logos.
Yeah.
You did a men's logo. What logo did you do? Barbers.
Ooh. I've done main attractions. Okay, so while I was doing the painting and the artwork, I also made a name for myself doing a lot of barber logos, salon logos. I've done Fahim's Hand of Precision logo. I did Main Attraction Unisex Salon logo. I've done Jay Majors from Connecticut, his logo, his personal logo. I've done a logo for Lena Pescinini. Oh God, edit that out. I think I'm butchering the name. I've had to have done probably over 100 logos for the barber community. I don't even know all the names.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. The new pieces that that a lot of people are seeing, I kind of loosely named it good energy only. It kind of came. I'm preparing for my Art Basel show right now. I've been doing Miami Art Basel for a couple years now. It's gotten really, really good reception. A lot of the people have been really supportive. I've sold like some really, really expensive pieces to date. But a part of me felt like I wasn't representing myself or my community the best way. So while I was preparing for Art Basel, and I'm doing like a lot of new pieces, and I'm just sitting there saying like, at the end of the day, because I'm always thinking about the future. At the end of the day, what is the estate going to look like for my kids when I'm gone? What artwork will they have in their possession that they can be proud of? And I really just stopped. I just stopped creating a lot of the pieces that people know me for, like the Money Burger piece, a lot of these pieces that sit behind me, to really just sit there and say, like, I want to make some artwork that my daughters are going to be proud of. I want to make some artwork that my mom, my aunt, my wife, my friends, because I got a lot of strong, like beautiful, intelligent, leveled up like women in my family and in my friends. And it just was like, you know what, the artwork that I was creating prior to that, it didn't speak to them. It didn't speak to my community. I was getting to the bags, but it's like, it didn't sit right. You know what I mean? So I just took a minute, put on some good music, and I just created what was in my heart. You know what I mean? And so I started painting these women and putting these abstract layers on top of them. I wanted to create the vibe. I wanted people to look at the artwork and say, that artwork makes me feel the same way my favorite song makes me feel. And so that's the latest pieces that I've created. I feel really good. I feel really good about this body of work, and I look forward to continuing more pieces. So a lot of people ask me how am I this good and this humble, and it's honestly because it's like, at the end of the day, you gotta just treat people good, man. Like, I learned, and this is one of the lessons that I learned from the barber community, because I remember when I was like rolling and I was hot and I was winning competitions, and I remember Nori first approached me before I was hot, and he asked me would I like to do designs or something for him, and I was like, no, I'm not doing no designs for you, I'm doing my own thing, and then I had to eat that humble pie, because I realized how big Nori was and how impactful he was for the community. And I had a couple of those, kicking the ass moments where I had to eat that pie. And I realized that, you get a lot further treating people well than acting like you bigger than somebody, because you never know where life is going to take you. You know what I mean? I could, God forbid, I'd be on the street this time next year. You know what I mean? Nobody knows. You know what I mean? Same way with you or anybody that's out there. You never know what your destiny calls you to do or where you'll be at. So I just move about treating people well, because it's enough out here for everybody to eat, and you eat well when everybody's eating together. So. Gave you all I own, put you on this golden throne. So coming from behind the chair, what it means to me, everybody's a creator. Whether you in this art, that art, hairstylist, whatever, you're a creator. Don't let that title define who you are, because your bigger title is creator. And you can do so many more things from behind that chair. You just gotta have the faith, and you gotta be willing to get your elbows dirty. But same way, you are great behind the chair, if you are any bit of a creative, you can be a great, anything you want to be. So that's what that means to me.